It's hard to believe that it's now 4 years since this Sony a7S III was launched, and it's easy to forget what a game changer this camera was for video shooters. Its performance as a stills camera was slightly compromised because it only had a 12 megapixel sensor, but that sacrifice was totally worth it for all the great video specs, like the amazing low light performance. And when you think about it, it all makes perfect sense. The bigger pixels on a low resolution sensor should collect more light than the much smaller pixels on a high resolution sensor. And I still see experts telling us that today. I might even have told people the same story myself when the a7S III was launched. Trouble is, just not true. Shocking, I know. Ta-da! This video is a bit of a follow-up to my previous video where I tried to visualize depth of field. A few people didn't get it, but on the whole, the comments were very positive. I even had a few asking if I'd try the same sort of visualization explaining sensor size and low light. This is that video, and the reason why the Sony a7S III is such a good example. But let's make the example a little more extreme so we can see what's going on. Imagine a hypothetical full-frame sensor but with only 12 pixels. For accuracy, let's call them photosites from now on. If we compare that to a full-frame sensor with just 4 photosites, which one do you think is going to capture the most light? I find it helps me visualize things if I think of light behaving a bit like rain. If we imagine both sensors left out in a rain shower, it becomes obvious that the size of each photosite is not really that important. It's the surface area of the whole sensor that determines how much rain, or light, it collects in total. So these two sensors with totally different resolutions will actually be capable of collecting much the same amount of light. Thinking that a large photosite will collect more light than a small one only really works when we're comparing two individual but differently sized photosites. That's not to say there weren't really good reasons for Sony keeping the a7S III sensor to just 12 megapixels. With that lower resolution, you're collecting less data, and less data means less processing to do. So the camera can run cooler and at higher frame rates and with faster readout speeds, which helps with rolling shutter. You could also argue that fewer pixels means less read noise, which definitely would help with low light performance, but let's come back to noise a little later. Thinking about sensors collecting rain instead of light is a useful analogy, so I'm going to stick with it. I tend to think of each photosite as a funnel, collecting the light into a bucket. At the end of each frame of video, the level of light in each bucket is measured. If there's no light in the bucket, that would be true black, and if the bucket is full of light, then that would be peak white, or more correctly, the highest luminance level the sensor can measure. If there's too much light, and the bucket is overflowed with light, then you can't measure what you've lost. The data is gone and your highlights are clipped. It would be a gross oversimplification to say the bigger the bucket, the greater the dynamic range, but you get the idea. Once the measurements have been taken, the bucket is emptied and we start all over again with the next frame. So what we're trying to do is keep the volume of light in our bucket measurable. Not too full, not too empty. A healthy exposure. Or you could describe it as having a good signal to noise ratio. I mention noise again now because it's probably the biggest single factor in judging the performance of different size sensors with different pixel densities, especially in low light. And to make matters a little more complicated, there's more than one type of noise. Read noise is the amount of electronic noise generated by all of the system components inside the camera that are used to measure the analog light levels in each bucket. It then has to convert those into a digital signal for the camera to process. Read noise is always there, and you could think of it as filling up the bottom of each of your buckets with a small level of noise. The problem is, when you start to collect light in your buckets, you need to collect enough light to rise above this noise. If you have low light, it might be hidden below the noise floor. A low read noise also allows for higher dynamic range because it's easier to detect a difference in your light levels. As each photosite contributes to the total read noise, It makes logical sense to think that a lower megapixel sensor would be better in low light. In reality, advances in sensor design like backside illumination and with onboard analog to digital converters, they've all significantly reduced the disadvantages of using high-resolution sensors with lots of pixels. If we compare the noise generated by my 12 megapixel A7S III with the 33 megapixel A7 IV, keep the exposure constant and shoot a raw image, you can see at 12,800 ISO, which is 3 stops above base ISO on the A7S III, there is some noise. If we shoot exactly the same shot on the A7 IV, also at 12,800 ISO, which is 5 stops above base ISO on this camera, you'd expect to see even more noise on the higher resolution A7 IV, which you do. However, if you scale the A7 IV shot down to 12 megapixels to match the A7S III, you'll see almost identical noise performance from both cameras. The visible noise is smaller on the A7 IV, and the effect is much the same. However, you'll also see the A7 IV has more detail. You've got the benefit of the same low light performance, but with a much sharper image. That's a real shocker. And if you've got those cameras, it's worth doing the test yourself. The A7S III isn't performing well in low light because of the lower resolution, and the read noise doesn't appear to be an issue between these cameras. However, the other significant form of noise we have to deal with is shot noise. Light, just like raindrops, is a little bit random. It's not smooth or evenly distributed when it lands on our sensor. And when there's not a lot of light to fill up our buckets, this randomness means you'll probably get more light following into some of the buckets and maybe almost none into others. The buckets won't fill up evenly, and when you measure the levels of light and generate a picture, the different levels appear on screen as noise. This is shot noise. The good news is, as you collect more light, the differences in the levels between the buckets averages out. So to reduce shot noise, all you have to do is increase the amount of light. You might be able to do that by opening the aperture, leaving the shutter open for longer, or even just putting up a light. What often doesn't help is increasing the ISO. ISO, or gain as I call it, doesn't increase the sensitivity of your sensor at all. All it does is amplify the small signal coming off of the sensor. The problem is, when amplifying the whole signal, it also amplifies all of the noise along with it, both shot noise and read noise. So how does dual base ISO work? You know all our little funnels and buckets. Imagine we now have 2 buckets behind each photosite, one wide one as before, and a second narrower bucket. If at some point the funnel could switch to filling up the narrow bucket, it would fill up quicker than the wide bucket. So you could get a measurable signal with less light and with less shot noise. Obviously, this is great in low light, but if you have too much light, it's going to fill up too quickly. Effectively, you have less dynamic range. On the A7S III, I think it's this high base ISO of 2000 when shooting Cinetone, or even 12,800 with S-Log3, that makes it look like a low light king. In reality, when you compare the performance with the newer A1 or A7 IV, there's not a lot of usable difference. If the A7 IV didn't crop 4K at 60, there'd be little point in anyone buying the A7S III, which I guess is the main reason Sony added the crop for video shooters. So let's wrap this up by answering the original question with a quick practical demonstration of both depth of field and noise between 2 different size sensors. Here's a shot taken on a full frame sensor with a 50mm lens at f5.6 and ISO 6400. And here's the same shot from a Micro Four Thirds camera, which has a crop factor of 2. That means a 25mm lens to match the field of view. If we stop there and just look at the noise between these 2 sensors, we can see that the Micro Four Thirds is collecting less light. So at ISO 6400, it's significantly noisier. However, to get true equivalence between our 2 shots, we need to match the depth of field. And that means applying the crop factor to our exposure of f5.6, which makes it f2.8. Obviously, That's now too bright, but luckily through a quirk of physics, if we divide the ISO on the Micro Four Thirds camera by the square of the crop factor, remember we're dealing with the square surface area of a sensor here, so that's ISO 6400 divided by the crop factor of 2 squared, which is 4, that gives us ISO 1600. Now we've matched the angle of view, depth of field and the higher noise from the smaller sensor. The crop factor squared isn't quite exact for the difference in total light captured between sensors of different sizes, but it's close enough for us to get an idea of what we're dealing with, which is about 2 stops in this case. So we can also use the crop factor to match the noise levels between these sensors. Now I can only apologise for the nerdy tone on this video. I was trying to keep the visualization thing as simple as possible, but I'm happy to discuss and correct anything you think I've got wrong in the comments below. I'll also try to stop pixel peeping for my next few videos. Maybe lighten things up a bit. Thanks for watching. Oh, and if any of my videos help, it would really help me if you could like and subscribe. Go on, I don't normally ask.